What the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
That is James MENNIE. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. So, Jim, sorry for the delay, but big day today.
Oh no! I was here. I was going through 3 boxes of Kleenex, buddy. It's just like, and then to find out the music was courtesy of AI.
Yeah.
It's like, that's like kind of crazy, because I've been making do for the past 12 years with the Jaggers, and apparently all you have to do was talk to a screen, and we could have had a different theme song every day.
Well, let me work on that, okay? I'll see if I can come up with a different one for you. Although for all the fans who love that song, it's going to be kind of disappointing.
Well, listen, I like to think we've made the Jaggers, whoever they are now, very rich men, because we've been playing that damn song every day.
That's right. They've, if you think about what they're getting in the royalty payments, they could be well up over $2 or $3. So good for them.
Exactly.
Okay, listen, I was talking to somebody on CTV, to Jeremy Charon, their Ottawa correspondent from the Insurance Bureau of Canada, talking about how much more we're all going to pay, whether you've had your car stolen or not. And obviously the ones that are more popular will pay more. But now, to add insult to injury, Jim, forget the insurance company. Look at your registration.
Oh, that is gonna sting, and it's supposed to sting. And what I love is that the Montreal metropolitan community, which is kind of a regional government, which is headed by Valerie Plante, but in fact contains, I believe, almost 80 municipalities, on the north and south shores, Montreal, of course. And the thing is, they have voted, in a vast majority, to increase the registration fees from $60 or $59 to $150 beginning this January. And I love it because we see the mayor of Laval, Stéphane Boyer, says this is not a strategy. We're not here to engage in any kind of political warfare, when in fact it is a strategy, and they are engaging in political warfare. They have been telegraphing this move, Aaron, ever since Geneviève Guilbeault, our transport minister, basically said, no, I'm not going to cover your budgetary shortfalls. I'm not going to cover your deficits. And then, on top of everything else, François Legault turns around and says, these mayors, maybe before you come begging to Quebec, maybe you should take a look at your own spending before you come to us, with your hand out for more cash. So I think they figured, okay, not only are we going to raise registration fees, because the fact is, they all know Montreal could sink into the St. Lawrence tomorrow. François Legault wouldn't give a damn. But because the Montreal metropolitan community includes the 450, which you're deep in the heart of CAC land, this is going to sting CAC supporters, CAC voters. And the fact is, the mayors can quite honestly turn around and say, listen, we didn't want to do this. Your buddy Legault said there's no way he's going to cover this. We cannot cut service. We've got people who rely on public transit. Not everyone's in a car. We have people who rely on public transit.
We lost. This is like 2 days in a row. In the middle of this whole thing, he just in the vapor, disappears. You're there, James?
How long?
Okay. Okay, we're going to call him back because we've lost him on that particular line. Twice exactly the same thing yesterday and today, just in the middle of a phone call. I'm sure, not that it's criticizing the CAC, I'm sure that has nothing to do with it, but we will call him back and get him back on because I wanted to go on about this registration because this is on top of what you are going to pay. Your extra insurance for your car, now you can add this registration to it. And he's right. This is a chance for Montreal to sort of get back at the provincial government and say, hey, you know what, not going to help us out on transit. This is what we're going to do. So, Jim, for whatever reason, we lost you. Are you putting coins in your phone as often as you're supposed to?
I'm trying to, but I'm running out of nickels. And you know what? They're hard to find these days.
All right. Well, that would explain it then. So pick up on where you were. So you talk about Montreal, of course, by hiking these, a chance to poke Quebec in the eye and, tell people the reason you're paying more is because Quebec's not giving us more.
Absolutely. And the people who are going to be screaming the most are going to be François Legault's constituents in the 450. So in a way, it's a perfect response. And I would presume, if it hasn't happened already, we can expect to see Mr. Legault scrummed on this and saying, listen, do you think this is a good idea? Because believe me, this is, like you say, never mind just the insurance rates. Between everything else, to see your registration fees go up by 300%, and in many cases, you've got people, you might have two license holders in the same household, one of whom hardly ever uses the car. Is that person going to turn around and say, no, maybe I should just forget about it, and, we'll take the chance if I ever have to use the car in an emergency? It's really, because that is a huge hike. That is a ridiculous hike. and it's clearly going to put pressure on the province. And I like I say, I really don't see how Francois Legault can weasel out of this one.
You know, when you think about the idea that, as you just said before, the government, Francois Legault, Geneviève Guilbeault, basically saying to the cities, pull your own pants up. We're not going to keep doing this for you. Where does this end up? I mean, if it's that bad, and you're right, it hurts them because it's in the 450. These are their constituents. What do you see happening here? What's the provincial government going to do on this? Say, we'll sit down again and let's talk about public transit. We didn't mean it. Where does it go?
I think there has to be a real discussion about public transit and who pays for it and how it's being used. I mean, the fact is that to a certain extent the province is right. There has been far too little oversight over the administration of billions of dollars in funding for public transit. Do we really need all the expenses? Do we really need all of this bureaucracy? All of these governing bodies, Aaron, they're supposed to be coordinating transit just in the Montreal area alone. There's something very wrong with that picture. And I think somewhere in the middle, we've got to find that compromise where the cities and towns are going to say, okay, you know what, we should be cutting back on certain things, certainly in terms of civil servants and bureaucrats and so on. But the fact is, we cannot deny that we must maintain the public transit system. We know every day, listening to CJAD at the quarter hour and at the top of the news, what the traffic situation is like. Imagine if we had to cut back. Imagine if we were putting a few thousand more motorists or tens of thousands of more motorists on the roads on a regular basis. It would be absolute chaos. So the fact is, we have got to find a way out of this. But quite frankly, the posturing by Francois Legault, and to be honest, even the posturing with this rate hike, I find that kind of drama's got to stop. People have to start behaving like adults.
All right, let's move on from that and talk about the new crime statistics that came out today. Before they were supposed to be officially released, I guess they got a hold of this in the French media. And we're seeing, in fact, despite what we hear from the chief of police, that crime in Montreal is going up. How does the mayor deal with this?
Overall, 11% increase in the crime rate, and in terms of violent crime, a 13% increase. I can tell you, after 40 years of covering crime, that's a big jump. And there are people who should be concerned. And whether it's the fact that we are seeing more violent crime on a regular basis. We had 2 homicides, one in Montreal, one in Laval, just overnight. Before I came on, Aaron, maybe 20 minutes before I came on, the Montreal Police Department that announced that yesterday they had raided a residence in terms of a drug investigation. They had seized 11 assault-style rifles and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. So we're in a different place now. Montreal is in a different place now. I think it's high time that not just our police chief, but our mayor and our administration admitted that there is a problem. It is getting more dangerous. And I don't want to wait for something absolutely horrible to happen, as in that will involve the words, crossfire or wrong place at the wrong time for someone to finally do something. There has got to be a look at why have we become a more violent city, okay? Because even though the homicide rate is down, I'm very sorry. Just because people try to kill you doesn't mean it's any safer than they succeed. So I'd like to find that out, and I think there has to be a real effort made by municipal governments and by police departments to get together and find out how to deal with this. Certainly, the issue of homelessness, the issues of addiction play a huge role in this, and I think we're just tiptoeing around these issues. We should be confronting them head on because things are clearly getting worse before they get better.
I remember talking to the police chief, and I think he made a point of this when we were talking about gun crimes, right? Saying that those have significantly come down. Well, look around. So those have come down, yet we're seeing all these other crimes take its place.
Absolutely, and you've got a lot of people now. It used to be, you would get into a fight, people would get into a scrap, it would be a physical altercation. More and more people are either being seriously injured or killed with what the police, like to refer to as edged weapons. They're getting stabbed to death. And even that is becoming part of our daily routine. That is a very, very dangerous trend, and we have not seen that before.
Jim, I started the show today, our question of the day, based on the fact that Deep Saini, the Vice Chancellor at McGill, came out with yet another statement, a rather lengthy letter, where in it he basically is trying to make the point that he doesn't understand why police have not yet made a move on the encampment, and he says it's beyond a peaceful demonstration now. He talks about coercion and threats and et cetera. And I'm wondering here, and I keep hearing Fadi Daguerre, and he had that press conference the other day saying, police are keeping an eye on it. What do you suppose happens here? Is this all about waiting for that injunction to come from court before anything actually happens, in your opinion?
Well, I listened to Chief Daguerre talk to David Hurtel earlier this week on this very show. And he basically said the criteria for us to move in is if the public security or the security of the people in the occupation is being compromised, if a crime is being committed, and he made it very clear. It's not for it's not for a politician who's going to tell us to go in. It's not going to be for some other entity to tell us to go in. We will make that judgment. And if Mr. Saini thinks that judgment is wrong, perhaps he should go to the courts and see if he can compel the police department to move. I don't think that he can, but quite frankly, even though the police department, some people perceive the police department as not being energetic enough or having pursued this with enough vigor. On the other hand, nobody would mistake the administration of McGill University as being kid flash when it came to reacting to this occupation in the first place.
Right.
It took them 2 weeks to go to court. Remember, there was another injunction that was being sought, and not by McGill. It took them 2 weeks to move on this. So perhaps less time spent writing open letters and staring like a deer into the headlights and perhaps more getting ahead on this situation would do McGill a lot more good than simply turning around and complaining the cops aren't doing their job. The cops are turning around saying we are doing our jobs, but you don't get to define what that job is.
James MENNIE at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Matt.